Konnichiwa, and welcome to the Samurai Way, the podcast where we dive into the wisdom of the samurai, the art of Japanese living, and the philosophies that help us live with purpose and perseverance. I'm Lori Tsugawa, and whether you're here to explore Bushido, the samurai, uncover the meaning of Ikigai, or just looking for a little extra Ganbaru, never give up spirit in your daily life, you're in the right place. So grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's walk this path together. Are you ready? Let's begin. Konnichiwa, minasan. Hello, everybody. I am here today with a special guest that you're going to enjoy and glean a lot of information from. This is the Samurai Way podcast. So today I'm going to be introducing to you Eric Louviere, and I'll share a bit about his information. He's been an entrepreneur since the mid-1990s when he was in his 20s. So he started and grew $1 million marketing agency and then eventually sold it. He has made tens of millions online for himself, net income, and has even made $1 million in a day. So you're going to want to listen closely to Eric Louviere. I'm going to ask him questions, but we're going to be concentrating a lot on Ganbaru, never give up. So please help me welcome Eric.
Hey, Lori, thanks for having me. I appreciate being on your show. I look forward to sharing really good information, trying to help some people.
Oh, great. That's great. That's the Samurai Way, is always helping. And before we get started, I'd like you to know if you would like to share a little bit about your background in case people don't know you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm just, an open book. I'm from Texas. I live outside of Austin, Texas, wife and 2 kids. We got a dog. We live on Lake Travis. I grew up in Texas. As a child, we were pretty poor. My dad was a pretty aggressive alcoholic, and we had a lot of abuse in the house with a lot of not good living. Right? He was just kind of verbally abusive a lot of times because he was struggling with all of that, and we were pretty dirt poor at times. So I think I didn't want to be like that. I wanted to succeed and not be like him. And, I wanted to take care of my mom, and I wanted to take care of my sister. And, I just believed that I could do well. Eventually I got pretty good at baseball and sports. And so I wanted to become a baseball player. I went to college and played a little bit of college baseball for a couple of years. And then, I was poor while I was in school. So it was hard to make ends meet, for myself as a college kid. And then, around the mid-1990s, I had a couple of jobs I didn't really like in sales. And I decided to just start a business of my own. I had about $2,000 to my name. And I had this idea for an ad agency and for a business directory. So back then, we had the yellow pages, and no one really used the white pages. They only used the yellow pages. And I'd studied graphic art in school. So I decided to create this really high quality, glossy, full color directory of all the businesses in the area. And I would just sell advertising in that directory. And we did $1 million that first year. I didn't even know what I was doing. I just went for it. And I just tried to, provide people with a good opportunity and people really bought it. I think a lot of the businesses in the area liked the idea that this young college aged kid and some other young people were trying to, do something with their lives and would buy advertising from us. And it worked really well. And then around 2003, 2004, I decided to get into internet marketing. And I saw that everything was going online. And most of our clients wanted to do something online at the time. So I started studying, how to get traffic and leads on the internet, how to get websites up and sales funnels, and studied copywriting and all that, and started making good money. And before that, I had sold my business. So then I spent all the money. So I had to get a job. So I got a job. And then around 2004 or so, no, about 2006, I really started making a lot of money online. So I quit that job, went full-time online. And in 2007 is when we did $1 million in one single day gross at that time. And it was in one day we did a launch. We got a bunch of people to promote it, and we got thousands of customers, and completely changed my life. I moved from probably about a $300,000 house into about a $1.5 million house at that time, which was a really big house over here where I live, and it just changed my entire life. And from that point forward, I started getting into membership sites and coaching and helping people, starting agencies online, and you name it, I did it online. And so it's been about 20 years now of making close to seven figures, if not more than seven figures each year throughout that entire time. So I've done tens of millions, and here I am. So I just didn't give up. A lot of sleepless nights, a lot of times when my friends were going out partying and doing things, I was just filling up my free time with a mission to succeed and bust through and not have to have a day job and actually be somebody. And so I put blinders on and I just gave it all I had, each day. And it was a lot of adversity. It was a lot of challenges, especially internally, in my own head. Just beating myself up a lot of times and just, at the mercy of whatever would happen to me at any given catastrophe or challenge, I would have to overcome it. And so I'd have to talk myself out of that to keep going. And so I have a lot to share, with our listeners here today, our watchers, and that's me.
That's great. It sounds like through all of this, you never gave up. Even though you didn't know that philosophy from Japan, Ganbaru, you didn't give up. You didn't give up, and you didn't blame your circumstances for not getting ahead. And you realize that life and business is a battlefield. So you have to get your mind right first, and before you even start. So you put your armor on like the samurai and weapons, get ready for battle, and tear down what the resistance which is holding you back, which sometimes may be yourself. Would you like to expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, every day when we wake up, we could either get ahead of our mind and we can own our mind, or our mind can own us. So when you wake up in the morning, like for me, the first thing I want to do is pray. I want to get my mind right, because if I'm just reactive instead of proactive, then my mind will beat me that day. And so for me, each day is like a spiritual battle. It's like a battle every day for me. So whenever I get up, I got to beat that operating system that I was born with, that poverty thinking, that stinking thinking, those, all those bad, corrupt files that I was born and raised with are still there. And so each day I have to bust through the resistance, is what I call it. So every day, like online, if you can't get traffic coming in, that's resistance, right? If you're talking yourself out of something, that's resistance. If you get a hater in the comments, that's resistance. If you have, a client that gets upset, that's resistance. If you have a sales call that you think is going to work really well and then it bombs and doesn't work, that's just all day is resistance. And so if you don't put on your armor like a samurai and you get your weapon and you put on your helmet and you brace for impact, then the impact is going to defeat you, right? So you have to prepare for battle. You have to go in each day. Business is a battlefield. And the people who triumph, the people that win, the people who succeed, they're able to bust through that resistance and instead of letting the resistance beat them. Because what's inevitable is problems, right? In this life, you will have trouble. It's inevitable. We're going to have this world is broken. We're broken. Everything's broken. Nothing works right on this planet. So we have to bust through that resistance with tenacity, with perseverance, with fortitude, with our vision, like me and you've talked about before, with what you teach, our purpose, the ikigai, all of that is really, really important to being able to handle the resistance. And if someone can handle the resistance in business, they will succeed, because most people, the first sign of resistance, the first sign of an obstacle, the first sign of a challenge or a problem, they quit. They run for the hills with their tail between their legs. They're just done, right? So people can't overcome adversities, but deciding to show up and ready to battle is one of the best things anyone could do to succeed. Because if not, all the arrows, all the enemy, everything's going to defeat us. So the old quote, and I'll end with this, is fortune favors the bold, right? Fortune favors the bold. So in business, if you're bold, if you're confident, if you're, well, maybe not confident, if you're courageous, if you have bravery, then you will bust through that resistance. And then confidence comes on the other side. So confidence is a luxury that comes later on after you've gone through the resistance enough times. Then you're confident. Like to do a call like this, after you've done it 5, 10, 20 times, then 50 times, 100 times, then now all of a sudden confidence shows up, right? But those first few calls is like nerve wracking because it's brand new. You got to have the tenacity to bust through that resistance. You come out the other side. Now you're confident. You can do calls like this in your sleep, right? So that's part of what I think is important. And then one more thing is just, I think the state of mind or the state of your being. So each morning, if you like work out or exercise or pray or meditate or something I used to do, which was I would listen to an audiobook or I'd watch motivational videos that I had saved on my computer before I started any work. So I would log onto my computer. I would watch some motivational type of videos that resonated with me. And I would get my mind right. I'd get my body right. I'd get my soul right. And then I would attack the day. Because if not, then the day is going to beat me, right? You either own your mind or your mind owns you. So in this life, you will have trouble. Everything's broken. So show up ready to battle like a samurai, and you'll be able to defeat all those problems and challenges that come your way.
Great. Well, I'd like to quote you. It says, motivation is only temporary. Failure is an opportunity, and failure is great. It's exciting. Do you want to explain that or expound on that?
Absolutely. So, I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be somebody. I wanted to not be my dad. I wanted to figure things out, and I didn't want to be poor. I didn't want to be troubled. I didn't want to have addictions or any of those kind of problems. I wanted to have a good marriage and a good family because my parents got divorced. So I was like, for me, I paid attention to people who were successful. And I read books about people who were successful, and I watched videos. And back in the 90s, I got cassette tapes and I listened to people who were successful. And I kept trying to learn how I could become successful. And so the best definition I ever learned about success and being successful and achieving it goes like this. Success is doing what you said you would do long after the mood in which you said it has left you. So we all get motivated, right? And we will say things like, I can get motivated and say, I'm going to go lose 30 pounds. I'm going to work out every day. I'm going to cut my carbs and all that. But that's just talk, right? Success is doing it 3 weeks from now, 2 months from now, long after this motivational mood is gone. It's drive, right? So motivation is temporary, drive is forever. So in success, again, the definition of success is doing what you said you would do long after the mood in which you said it has left you. And to me, that is the absolute definition of success. Now, when it comes to failure, well, failure is an opportunity to do it again, but more intelligent this next time around, right? We fail at everything. You think about little toddlers. They get up, they're crawling. They get up and try to walk and they fall down. They get up and they try to walk and they fall down. They get up and try to walk and they fall down. They keep doing that until eventually they're running around. You can't get them to stop sprinting, and you want to save them from all that. So failure is the opportunity to do it again and again and again, but learn from what you did before. An interesting story about, I think it was Ferrari, the sports car. So the engineers for Ferrari would take the engine, just the engine, not the car, and they would put the engine on all these like instruments and stuff to study the engine. And so all these engineers and all that are around the engine, and they would crank the engine up full speed, going like 250 miles an hour or 300 miles an hour, just going full speed. And they have all their instruments and detectors and all that connected to the engine, and they would leave and just let the engine go full speed. And they were bored with that. But when the engine would break, that's when they'd all come rushing back to see what went wrong, because that's what they're excited about, was fixing the problem. So so something would break on the Ferrari engine. They'd investigate it, they'd research it, they'd dig into it, and they're like, oh, this little thing right here broke. Let's make that better, and then let's try it again. And they'd crank it up to 250 miles an hour again and put all their instruments and wait for something else to break. And that's how they perfected one of the most perfect engines that we've ever seen in history. So it's the same thing for success, and never giving up is to continue to use failure as a great opportunity to just do it again better the next time around. So that's the definition of success, and failure is a good thing.
That's great. And one last thing I'd like to ask you. So if you want more, you have to become more. Never stop working on yourself, because it's not the talent, skills, abilities, experience, contacts, looks, charisma. It's emotion and self-beliefs, and it's you, us. Plenty of talented people struggle their whole lives. And I want the one with courage and faith to go for it. Put that person on my team.
Indeed. So, I mean, this is a big one for me. I get a little excited about this, but really, I mean, again, just paying attention to people who are successful all these years, and just really watching what they do, and what they don't do, and also looking at the people who are failing and what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I've discovered from people that succeed and achieve. They constantly work on themselves. They're constantly battling themselves. They're in their own head, and they're trying to fix things, and they're trying to move forward. So the best way to be successful is to continue to work on yourself. So if you want more in life, you've got to become more, right? If you want to make $1 million, you've got to become a millionaire before you make $1 million, mentally and expectations wise and all that. So for me, in my opinion, like if I want somebody on my team, or I want somebody in the trenches going to battle with me, my wingman or my wing woman that's going to help me in battle, then that I don't want the person that's like, all charismatic. I don't want the person who's good looking. That ain't going to save me in battle, right? The enemy doesn't care how good looking you are, right? I don't want that person. I don't need that person. I don't care if the person is really smart either. I mean, that helps, but it's not really necessary to win a battle. I don't need the person on my team that has a lot of wisdom and skills and abilities and talents and, certifications and PhDs and degrees and all that stuff. It's not what matters. What matters to me, and what I've seen, is the definition of succeeding and achieving is courage. The people who have courage, that's what I want on my team. The person that's brave, are fearless, are willing to go into battle, that's willing to put the armor on, grab the sword, and go to battle. That's the person I want on my team, the one who's courageous, because the one who's scared or the one who's super timid is going to freeze up when the enemy shows up with their weapons. The first sign of adversity, they're going to just be like, like play dead, right? They're just going to be shocked. And that's not going to help us win the battle. What's going to help us win the battle is the person who's courageous. Sure, they're afraid, they're scared, but they're courageous enough, and something in them makes them plow forward to fight. And if you want to be a samurai, you better be ready to fight. If you want to win in battle, you better be ready to fight. And that's exactly what that means. That means grab your weapons, grab your armor, and go battle. And the person I want on my team is the person that has courage and has faith, and they're going to just go for it, and confidence will come later on after they went for it.
That's beautiful. You know what? It reminds me of King David. Remember the little shepherd boy? Who is he to go up against this giant?
Right.
He's just a little kid, and but God saw something in him.
He had courage and he had faith.
Mm-hmm.
He had courage and faith, and he wasn't confident, but he had courage and faith. And look what happened.
Yep.
That's great. That's a great point right there.
Well, that's what I thought about when you were talking. So, is there anything that you would like to leave with the listeners? Like, what is your big dream? Do you have a goal, a big dream that you'd like to share, or something you've been working towards?
Yeah, that's an interesting question to ask me at this moment, because I feel like I'm in a bit of a transitional phase in my life, and it's interesting. I was just talking to my wife about this recently. Is my son is going to be a senior, right? So he's about to go off, maybe play baseball, or go to college, and so he's at that age where it's like, wow, this is going to be really strange when he's no longer in the house. We still have a daughter that's younger. She's 11. But for my son to be going off and leaving the house is a really weird feeling for me. So being in my 50s and kind of going through that transition right there, I'm starting to feel a bit of a transformation for myself. And so I've kind of looked at different directions. I've had an agency, I've had different types of businesses, but something interesting is starting to happen for me. And we've talked about this before, but giving and serving, right? You've talked about this. Giving and serving is starting to become on a different level for me than it ever was before. It's almost like I'm shrinking and, my purpose and all of that is growing. And then I'm starting to realize like I need to put out more, give more, put out more output. Right. So, I mean, like I wrote a book that sold like thousands of copies online before Amazon really took off and all that. And like I wrote that book like in a weekend. Like I could write books like that fast. I'm just really good at writing, and I like to talk and teach and all that. And I got invited to like over 100 different speaking engagements that I rejected through my career. I just was like, I don't want to speak on stage in Canada or Australia or wherever, Bali. Like I can make plenty of money from home. I can succeed from here. I don't need to go do that and leave my family on. But now I'm starting to get to where, I think I need to do these things more now. So I think for me, my goal moving into the future is going to be give more, but in different ways than I gave in the past. And that's grown a lot for me. So I don't know how to quite put that into words, but I'm dabbling with going full steam in a direction that really opens up a more giving, not only business wise, but personal wise, church and all that as well. So I just want to serve more.
Well, that's beautiful. So just want to thank you for being here, Eric. And
thank you.
You're welcome. And in the comments, or when we put this up online next week, there will be your contact information and anything else that you'd like to share with the listeners. But it's been a great interview. I've had fun, and I'm sure that the audience has gleaned a lot from this, especially about Ganbaru. Never, ever give up. And I use that when I was battling traumatic brain injury.
Right.
So my goal was to write the book. And I said, if I write that book, I'll overcome traumatic brain injury. And so had I given up, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be doing this podcast. I wouldn't be going to Japan. I wouldn't be a very not a very productive citizen. So now I'm happy that I did not give up, and it's worth it not to give up, because there's nothing. My mom used to always say, there's always a way. There's always a way. And that's what I feel too.
Yeah, I totally agree with your mom. Well, it's great. It's great having, being on your show here, and everyone watching. You need to follow her. You need to subscribe, comment, and she's a special person, and I follow her, so you should too.
Thank you. So we'll say goodbye for now. So thank you so much for listening to the Samurai Way on the podcast, wherever you do, Apple, Spotify. It's on about 10 or 12 platforms, plus YouTube. Say goodnight. Sayonara. Not sayonara. Mata ne. Goodbye. And that's a wrap for today's episode, The Samurai Way. I hope you found a little inspiration, a new perspective, or just something to reflect upon as you go about your day. Now remember, the samurai spirit isn't just about history. It's about how you show up, face challenges, and live with purpose. Whether it's Ikigai guiding your path or a little extra Ganbaru pushing you forward, keep walking strong. So if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share, or leave a review. It really helps. And if you've got thoughts, questions, or just want to connect, just contact me. So until next time, stay focused, stay determined, and keep living with purpose. Mata ne.